I'm going to welcome you to what I think is being labelled as the emergency grief kit. Like a puncture repair kit. You have an emergency of a flat tire. The kit is something you pull out and you fix the problem temporarily so that you are able to carry on, limping sometimes back to your destination, back to home, but it gets you there. And then once you're home, you can make the repair properly. So these films, if you've watched the introduction already, they are all being channeled by spirit. Unusually for me, I'm keeping my eyes open the whole time, so just take it as read that I am channeling, even though it doesn't look like I am. I have a lot of helpers here to do these films with me, and the main one being my brother Christian, who's in spirit. These films are being prepared for you, and you'll watch them when you need them. I have a whole army in spirit and I always see it as a theatre group around me of spirits who are creating these films and also bringing people to these films. I would think if you're watching these films, you have just been bereaved, or you are still trying to cope with the grief, or there's something that's been niggling at you for a long time, a feeling that there's something else that you can't see in the physical world, something beyond the physical world, which will help you heal a grief. It might be that you're getting images or messages or had dreams of a loved one and they're bringing you here. Whatever it is, welcome, and just know that this emergency grief kit is here to bring you a positive mindset, I think, really, about grief and the power that is within grief, the power to really find out what you're made of, and to find out that there's a lot more that goes on in this world that you can't necessarily see. There's a whole reservoir of love and light that's available to you, and if you've been cracked open by grief like I was with my brother, then it's the perfect time for you to unearth everything that you have within you, all your strengths, abilities and knowledge and love, and use everything within you to be able to face your grief and move through your grief and come out the other side. These films, the emergency grief kit will get you to the point where you feel ready to really face your grief, which within Raise, within this group, this community online, facing your grief and actually moving through your grief is a separate course. This is purely for anybody who's new into Raise or who has been brought here from an outside source, to be able to give you the tools and to get you to realise that you are a whole lot stronger than you think you are. Especially at the moment, I'm talking to you if you are recently bereaved, lost, depressed, just can't find a way out of grief, and Western society is really bad at giving people a an idea of what to do with grief. Grief and death are still a taboo subject. There's lots of charities now and online groups who are really breaking down the taboo. But from where I've come from, which I'll tell you a bit about in a minute, actually, you know how to heal your own grief. You actually don't need to hear what other people are going through with their grief. You do in certain ways, in that you have to understand that everybody's way of grief is different, and grief really does tear you apart. I need to explain a little bit about my grief. So my brother Christian went missing in 2003 in Mali in Africa. And it was 15 years of no news. It was ambiguous loss. I was suffering from, chronic grief. But it was because we didn't know what had happened to Christian. We couldn't actually grieve. It was like waiting for somebody to die. But you don't know when it is in a lot of ways. Like a terminal, if your loved one has a terminal illness or something like that, you just really don't know what to do with this grief. And a lot of the support groups for missing people was all about just coping with the day-to-day living, and trying to keep an even keel, really. But you never really looked at grief and the possibility of death, because it's obviously something that you don't want to look at when you're still living in hope. Anyway, Christian's disappearance, and then I found out in 2018 with Christian that he was actually dead, and he had been since 2003. His grief completely, my grief for him completely broke me. I mean, you can see it all on the internet. You can see it on Facebook, the films I did at the time. I've always been very honest about how I was feeling and how my grief was coming out. It's really important to let your emotions out in grief. They're going to be really ugly emotions. Really ugly, like rage, jealousy in some ways, shame, guilt, sadness, obviously. But yeah, it's getting those emotions out. But that's almost further down the line. You might be in the stage now where you're still in shock about a bereavement. You might feel like your insides have been ripped out. You might actually feel numb. You might feel you don't know how to feel or what you feel. You're too scared of actually looking to see how you really feel. But this emergency grief kit, as it's being called, all begins with you. You are the number one priority. And actually, I've done many films with spirit, and the people who've moved on into the next realm, so into spirit with my brother and my ancestors, and they all say that their main worry is for you in the physical. They don't want you to be in grief. They haven't actually gone anywhere. They're still around you. They still see you. They still feel what you feel. They don't want you to be in grief. You don't need to be feeling grief. They haven't abandoned you. They're there. You just have to learn how to readjust your communication with them and find a new way of communicating with them. But they don't want to see you in pain and grief. They always say, look after yourself in grief. So this is their gift to you. And it all starts with looking after yourself. Don't worry what anybody else is thinking about you. This is, it's an emergency situation in a lot of ways, and the way you cope with the initial grief and how you view your loss will actually affect everybody around you in the way that you behave and act towards people. You might do it subconsciously, but your grief ripples out to other people. It affects all your relationships, especially if you've got young children or people who rely on you. So yes, how you cope and learn to cope and learn to rely on yourself. Dig deep and realise you've got a lot more strength than you ever believed inside of you. You know how to grieve. You know how to let those emotions out. You know what is best for you. You know what you need to learn from this grief. You need to uncover this part of yourself. Grief triggers that opportunity to know yourself. And if you can uncover your own ability to grieve, you know how to grieve, you know what's best for you. If you're able to tap into that and really listen to that, you'll be able to move through grief and you'll be able to fully heal. And it's really important that this message gets out to people. What we're going to give to you is a framework, a set of tools, a set of meditations, which will enable you to find some balance after the shock, the pummeling of grief, of loss. And this is the tools that we want people to know about. So I'm now beginning to channel, there's a certain energy come forward now. If you've watched the introduction, there was a very, very strong energy who came through, and I think it's here as well now. It's making it at the back of my head feels really, it feels like I'm being plugged in, like to download something, and I actually feel a bit sick. It's a very big energy here, so what I'm going to speak now will be from this energy. He's just thanking me. As I said, it's in the last film. It's a very gentle, masculine energy, like a creative energy. It's going back to showing me the seed that's within you. Okay, he's just saying to everybody who's watching, close your eyes and take some deep breaths. So just breathe in for 4, hold, and then let out for 4. Okay, and he wants you to visualize within your stomach, belly place. If you're in grief, you might feel that is now empty, that hole in your stomach. Your insides have been ripped out. You're at a loss. You've lost your balance. You don't know where you are. You don't know where you're going. You're panicking. You're in terror. This can't be happening. This really can't be happening. But it is. And the number one step in this course is actually an acceptance. What would it mean to actually accept that your loved one has now passed into spirit? That they're now in a place filled with light and love. And they're looking down on you now. Keep breathing. Okay. Imagine they're sitting in front of you now. Imagine them holding your hands. Imagine what they'd be saying to you right now. What would they be saying? Listen to them. Okay, I want you to feel their love coming into you. I can now feel it through my hands. It's running up through my arms. It's hitting my heart. It's now making its way down into my stomach area. I can feel the warmth of that love. Filling up my stomach. Filling up the hole in my body. Keep breathing their love in. They're sending you this love. Now, I want you to visualize a seed that's now highlighted, sitting within you. What does that seed look like? I want to show you what's inside the seed. I want you to discover what's inside the seed for yourself. I want you to discover the strength that lies within that seed. Your loved one wants you to find out what's within you. They want you to find the love and light that's within you, which will power you through the darkest times. That seed is now swelling with the love that they're sending you. Its outer case is cracking open. It's growing. The light is growing from within. This seed contains all the love you need, all the power you need, and all the knowledge you need. Everything you need is within you. Get used to that. Warmth, love, and light. The more you nurture this seed, the more you can begin to really face your grief and heal your grief. And also make that connection with your loved one so it's pure and clear. But it all starts with their wish for you to find the love and light within yourself, within this seed. Okay, take a deep breath. Okay. Start to be aware of sounds and the outside world again, and gradually come back into this film and this video. You can gradually open your eyes when you feel comfortable. Your loved one will stay with you. They're not going anywhere. You've made that first connection. Don't be scared, they're not going anywhere. Okay. So for me, my hands always tingle. That was one of the first signs actually that I was being helped and being drawn towards healing myself. I would get warmth in my back and my hands and feet would tingle. My throat, I often couldn't swallow, had real difficulty swallowing. My teeth tingle. I get lots of bodily sensations. So after you've done that meditation, you'll begin to feel these things. There'll be little reminders that you're not alone in this grief. It might be that you now decide that you don't want many people around you. You only want those people around you who are radiators. So they are people who support you, provide you with warmth, listen to you, essentially nurture you. Obviously, we all have to move around in the outside world. But you have to know that you'll get a gut feeling about people and situations. The seed within is one of the 3 centres with which you'll start to use to guide you. You'll begin to trust and have faith in these 3 centres of guidance that you have within you. The first is your seed, your gut feeling. You know when a situation is not good for you. You know when people are not good for you. Trust that gut feeling. You'll make many mistakes by not listening to that gut feeling. As Hannah did. That's right. And you'll soon learn to trust it. The other centre is your heart. Your heart is your communication space with your loved one. Hannah and Christian have what we described to them as a telephone line, like an old-fashioned corded telephone, which the younger generation won't know anything about. But it's a communication line between you and your loved one in spirit. Listen to the whispers of your heart. You'll know things. You'll hear their voice. They'll send you signs, songs, animals, objects, people. You'll instinctively know these things are from them. Don't doubt it. Even the tiniest things. Acknowledge them. Know they're being sent with love. Too many people disregard these signs as coincidence, or they're in such pain or denial that they don't register them. Open your heart. And you will experience these things. The third center of knowledge within you is here, your third eye. Dreams, images, auras, visions. It's guidance that you're given from outside yourself. If you remember your dreams when you've woken, write them down, make a note of them. They're significant, they're trying to tell you something. You can access these three centers which are within you. These centers you use with practice. They will be uncovered over time, layer by layer. The strength of the feelings, communication, and images will grow over time, and you'll learn to trust and have faith in them. Your body is like a transmitter, receiver. You must be firstly aware that you have the ability to receive. You have to tune into your receiving ability and tune into the channels that are available to you. Focus. You'll learn to use these in your own time and your own way. They'll be shown to you. It's your time and space to uncover them and remember them. They will show you you're not alone, that you're perfectly able to find your own way through the choppy waters, the grief tsunami, the earthquakes, the soul shattering that occurs when you think you've lost a loved one. You haven't lost them at all. They're right with you. You have to begin to see their death as their final gift to you. Treasure that gift. Unwrap that gift. It's only when you unwrap the gift and really explore what their death has triggered, that's when you truly are able to heal and grow. The death of a loved one is the one trigger we all have. No human is immune to it. It might be a person, it might be an animal, it might be the loss of a dream, it might be the loss of ability, it might be the loss of a relationship. These are all triggers. You have to find the goodness and the love that's left behind. The gift that's left behind needs to be opened. There's very little left to say in this first film. We've just opened you up to a new pathway opens before you. Take your time. But we'll see you in the next step. Lots of love.